Hello! We are looking at warming up today. We are looking at the mobilizing phase of the general warm-up that we do. We're going to have a quick look at just the full body breakdown. So I'm going to go work from head, work from neck, down to my ankles, just hitting everything along the way. We're going to go for a couple of different mobilizations for each joint, just so you got a little bit of variety, a couple of different ways to hit the same joint, just in case it needs any specific mobilizing. Starting with the head, simplest first. Don't go crazy on your neck. It doesn't need massive movements. Just keep it simple. Go left and right, so getting your chin across to your shoulder. When I look right, I'm trying to pull my left shoulder back. When I look left, I try and pull my right shoulder back, just to make sure my shoulder doesn't turn with my head. So that's sort of first simple movement. We can go ear down to shoulder, so your lateral movement. Again, as I go to my left, I pull my right shoulder down. When I go right, I pull my left shoulder down. Very simple stuff, just basic movements. And then I can go up and down as well. Lifting my chin up as high as I can, pulling my shoulders back when I bring my chin down to the front. So those are your basic 3 neck movements. I try and avoid any rolling patterns with my head. So I wouldn't roll low, and I especially wouldn't roll high. We tend to find those are just very, very vulnerable, weak positions for the neck to be in. And when you do it, you can feel your vertebrae grind and roll around each other. And from a technical standpoint, what's important, this movement has never ever been required in any sport or any exercise movement in the history of ever. So I wouldn't recommend the rolling, just stick to up and down, left, right, and the lateral movements. Moving on to shoulders, these tend to require the most mobilization out of anything. They've got a lot of movement that need to be able to do. So I'm going to give you a couple of different varieties. We're going to start with your standard windmill swing. So we've got your basic forward mobility swing, just keeping your hands tight in a fist, just because if I have them open, I go fast, I'm going to end up like pooling all my blood in my hand with a big swollen red hand. So just keep it tight in a fist and throw them around to the front from there. Once you've done 10 or so swings, you can pull back. Obviously that is hitting more towards the front of the shoulder. If I want to hit towards the back of my shoulder, I'm just going to introduce a pronation of my palms. I'm going to lift my palms up towards the ceiling, and then I'm going to windmill forwards from there. So that should be harder. You won't be able to get as far around with that movement. And then I can pull back. So again, always go for 10 reps. I'm just flying through this nice and quick for you. Don't watch me swing my arms around for too long. So I can do front and back of the shoulder just by adding this simple movement in. We're going to apply that same technique to our arm crossovers through the chest, coming through the front. So I'm going to start with my palms facing behind me, my thumb down towards the floor. So my first crisscross through the chest, hitting my back of my shoulder a little bit more because my thumbs are pointing down towards the floor, swapping hands on each repetition. Now I can introduce a 90-degree palm turn, so palms are down, thumbs are forward. So this is your neutral position, going straight through the middle. Again, 8 or so swings, then thumbs up, hitting more towards the front of your shoulder now. And then the last one, pronating your palms up to the ceiling, trying to stick your chest out as far as you can on each backward swing there, trying to hit almost under the armpit with that last one. We can also do half swings if I want to just focus anterior or posterior shoulder. So I can just do a half swing to the front, just a big C shape, trying to lift my palms up as high as I can when they come behind me. Just from here, I can do the same thing coming behind me. So I can start the palms up to the front, come behind, stop underneath. So it's a big C shape coming forwards. Again, just hit the rear portion of my deltoids there. No reason you can't do single arm mobility work. Obviously, if I'm doing single arm, I have more mobility available than if I do double arm. If I do single arm, I can get my bicep to brush my ear and my hand to brush my thigh. If I'm doing double arm, no matter how much I try, I can't get that same range of movement with 2 arms than I can with 1. So if I'm not as mobile, or feeling quite tender, quite sore, I would recommend working 1 arm work because it has more mobility available. You can also do specific 1 arm stuff, so you can do your big figure of 8 patterns, swinging from left to right. Obviously it takes a little bit of coordination to get those patterns right, especially when you go to your left hand, your weaker arm where the coordination's not as solid, especially going backwards on that one. That takes a little bit of time to practice. So those are your basic shoulder mobility work. Again, there's nothing wrong with adding your own in to any of these patterns as well. I'm just going to look at my spine rotation, so mainly thoracic rotation to start with. I'm going to keep my feet square, so I don't want my feet to move anywhere, because that, if I'm twisting left and right, at the moment that is all through my spine, which which is what I'm targeting. If I allow my feet to spin, now the rotation is going to lumbar and hips is allowing that movement there. So keep your feet square and just twist as far around as you can. I'm looking at the elbow that comes behind me, so I'm turning my head as we go. I'm just trying to get it as far around as possible. I'm not trying to jerk it anywhere, just relaxing through it and allowing that movement to take me. That is obviously our external rotation, your external obliques creating that movement. We've also got your internal, so that is your bending obliques. So again, for that one, I'm just going to do the start with a basic position, leaning left and right, trying to get my hand down my thigh. That's our basic starting point. If I want to make that a little bit harder, I can either bring my hands up to the front like I'm doing a plank, one elbow down, one elbow up, and that just opens up underneath my rib cage a little bit more, or I could do it with hand right the way overhead, old school style. From there. So those are your basic external internal rotation. I can do a couple more, a little bit more advanced ones on the floor that allow a little bit of lumbar rotation as well. So if I get into a prone position, down on the floor, from here. So I'm going to have my right knee on the floor. I'm going to step my left foot up as high as I can. So it's foot, hand, and hand. I've got my knee just on the outside of my shoulder in this position. I'm just going to allow a rotation up over top. So I'm going to lift my left hand up. So my left foot is up, so I lift my left hand. I'm just going to reach underneath my rib cage as far as I can and then pull back up over top. So reach underneath your rib cage as far as you can, pull back up over the top as high as you can. Again, you can see I'm trying to lift over my shoulder. I'm not doing the rotation down here. I'm lifting right the way up overhead. Again, I'd go for 10 or so on one side, swapping hands, swapping feet, pulling up on the other side. If you don't have the mobility to have foot down, knee down and foot down, you can do that with your back knee off the floor, which is a touch easier if you're not feeling quite as flexible on your hamstrings that day. We'll move on to our spine flexion and extension as well. So basically leaning forwards and back, especially if you've got any hinge patterns in that day, a lot of deadlifting, a lot of forwards and back leaning. So all I'm going to do is allow my knees to bend nice and soft, reach down towards the floor, so a little bit of hamstring pull. I'm just going to reach up overhead as far as I can. So in the simplest terms, touch the floor, then do the limbo. Easiest way to move. Stick your hips forwards on that overhead lean, stick your hips back as you reach down towards the floor. So you can start with a nice little soft knee bend to reach down to the ground, not too much hamstring tension, but when you start wanting to progress it, you can try and keep those legs a little bit more locked out to get a bit more of a hamstring pull. If I want to go back to my rotation through the spine, I can just add on a slight twist to that movement. I can reach down, then when I lean back, I'm just going to twist back slightly. I can feel a big pull underneath my right rib cage here as I twist left. From there. Again, still doing the same floor touch for a little bit of hamstring work. And just a basic rotation. Last one for rotation, we're just going to go from floor to ceiling. So just a bit more of an advanced version of the touch and the twist. So this time I'm going to do opposite hand to foot. So I'm going to reach down with my left hand to my right foot. I just want my feet a touch wider than shoulder width apart. I'm just going to reach down. So I'm going to stretch my right hamstring slightly, right hand overhead. And then I'm going to bring my right hand up to my left hand side. So this is a one-sided stretch, doing left hand down, right hand up. I'm trying to keep my arms in a T shape. That's making the stretch as efficient as possible. So left down, right up. Obviously I've got to do so many on one side, and I'll do the same number on the opposite side to make sure I don't miss anything. Alright, so once I've finished my spine rotation, thoracic and lumbar, we'll move on to actually mobilizing the hips. We have got your basic hip circles, so just working your standard rotation through the hips. Again, I am looking for a hinge pattern here, so I'm looking for my legs to remain straight, my chest to remain upright, my head to remain pretty much still as I'm doing this. One thing we do tend to see is people doing the opposite of that, hips staying where they are, kind of wobbling their heads around their feet as opposed to hips around the feet. So just make sure you keep an eye on everyone, make sure hips are moving, because that is what we're trying to mobilize, not the head. So you have got your standard circles from here, just again keeping your chest up, keeping your legs straight. Going on to more specific leg work. If I want to work hip swings, I wouldn't recommend, or I personally don't like doing swings from here, for the obvious reason that I have to balance. I don't care about balance right now, I'm trying to mobilize. If I have to focus and worry about keeping upright, then I'm not going to be able to put as much effort into moving my legs, which is what I'm trying to target. So make it easy for yourself, grab hold of something for support, anything will work. Now, I don't have to worry about balance, I can actually mobilize my hips properly. So first off, just keep your foot straight, toes staying in a straight line. I'm following the white lines of this track on the floor, trying to keep my chest up. I'm swinging to the front and back, because I'm trying to mobilize glutes, hamstrings, and quads, hip flexors on the front. So don't just kick up to the front over and over again for the back, you need to stretch the front as well. Once I've done 10 or so swings from here, I can just add in a couple of twists, again to make it add in different muscle groups. So on the forward swing, I can come up onto my tiptoes, just for a little bit of calf activation on that back foot. And if I want to mobilize my inner thigh, my hip adductors, I can turn my toes out to the side. My foot is still going the same, my leg, sorry, is still going the same direction, following the white lines of the track, but I'm just opening my toes out towards that window. That is opening up my inner thigh. All right, so once I have done however many hip swings I want to do on each leg, remember, we're keeping it progressive. I want to start low and gradually build it up. Don't just go straight up for head height. Nobody wants to rip the hamstring off. Start low, gradually build it up as your mobility increases. If I don't have enough support, so there's too many people in the session for enough wall space each, you can just do standing mobility work instead. So if you start just with your left foot forward, throwing your right knee up into the middle, putting my foot down after each swing, that means I don't have to worry about balance again. I can just do a single rep and work from there. Once I've done however many I want to do, 8 or 10 reps, I can go to the same leg, circling it out. So just knee in and knee out to the side, standard football stretch. And then I can progress it to a straight leg swing to the front, keeping my leg straight to actually get that hamstring mobility. So I would do, let's say 8 reps of a knee lift, 8 reps of a circle, 8 reps of a straight leg, and then I'd go to my left leg from there. Again, keeping it as progressive as possible, gradually building your way up. Next up, we've got our knee mobilizing. A little bit harder to mobilize the elbows and knees just because it is a hinge. It can only open and close. It's not got really much other movements available. So we can start with our basic knee circles. If I get my feet and knees together, hands on top of the thighs, rolling my knees round in a circle from here. So a very basic pattern, just getting some gradual rotation. And we can also go into a kind of sissy squat position where I get my feet together, hands on thighs. I'm just going to push my knees as far towards the floor as possible, trying to keep my heels down. So we are getting some ankle mobility in here as well. So pushing my knees, my shins down towards the floor, trying to get my shins as parallel to the ground as possible. Sitting back up from here, straighten my legs back, push my knees forwards, straighten back, push forwards. Your best knee mobilizers are squats in reality. So when you're doing your pulse raiser, lunges and squats, those kind of patterns are the best things to get your knees moving properly. Last up and often forgot about is the ankles. Ankles go through quite a amount of abuse, especially if you've got any plyometrics, any jumping, sprinting, running, any agility work, you're going to need a lot of ankle mobility. Very susceptible for injury. So make sure we mobilize it properly. Just come up onto your tiptoes as high as you can, then rock back onto your heels. So heels and toes, trying to get as high as we can from that pattern. Use your hands for balance. Just to mobilize front and back of your shin, tibialis and your calf. And we've also, obviously, you can do your standard foot circles. Again, balance on something if you need it, so you don't have to worry about balance. And just get some standard internal and external rotations. Nice and simple. So those are our full body mobility. We'll have a quick look later on at some more specific work using a bit of equipment. For now, that's it. I'll see you next time.